This week, we're talking about the CrossFit Games and those athletes, opportunities and priorities, and also if you would make a really good WAG client. I'm very fortunate to have gotten the opportunity to coach over 15 different individual games athletes that competed at the CrossFit Games this past year. That was super exciting, my third time coaching CrossFit Games athletes, and of all the years, it was probably the most exciting when it came to their nutrition. We usually have a game plan for, what they're going to eat when they taper for the CrossFit Games. We lower their carbohydrates a little bit, lower their intake, and then when they're ramping up for the CrossFit Games, ramping up their carbohydrates just because they go through a grueling 4-day competition with 14 events that's just absolutely crazy. Now this year on the Wednesday of the event, they had 3 events, and then the 4th event was a marathon row. That's 26.2 miles on a rower. So that is just over 3 hours of doing the same movement over and over again. So I would be lying if I told you that athletes didn't call me the day before the marathon row, just completely stressing out about what their nutrition was supposed to be. Now, keep in mind, these athletes are not marathon rowers. They don't do this. They've never done this before. They don't run marathons often. They do some triathlons in their training, but this is not their sport. So knowing what to do for them on this particular occasion and getting them fueled for that event and making sure that they had enough to recover for the rest of the weekend was a really interesting thing to play around with, and making sure that we did what was right for them, but not necessarily it's not exactly the same as what would be for somebody that's running a marathon. What we did know for sure is that they needed a lot of extra carbohydrates. So for most of the females, we had them having 45 grams of carbohydrates per hour that they were on the rower, and that could have come in a liquid form, it could have come in a fruit, or whatever it is they decided to bring with them. Some of them brought mashed sweet potatoes, some of them brought tons of different things, keeping the simpler sugars or carbohydrates for the end of the marathon row. And then the men were having upwards of 60 grams of carbohydrates per hour on the row. They also had their total carbs that they needed for the day, which was definitely more than they would have in a normal training day, but that did not count towards what they were having in the row. So they had all those carbohydrates, not including what they had for the row. Then when they went home, they had a really hearty meal full of fat, carbs, and protein to give them all the calories that they needed to recover and get ready for the rest of the weekend. Luckily, they had the Thursday off, and it was a good opportunity for them to rest. There are definitely certain times in life where saying yes to as much as possible is going to work in your benefit. If you don't have a lot of opportunities coming your way, saying yes to a lot of them can lead to a bunch of paths and move you in a forwards direction, and you never know where those are going to take you. However, at a certain point, saying yes to all the opportunities that come your way is going to be taking away from the things you really want to be doing. Early on when I started working against gravity, Mike Bledsoe from Barbell Shrugged gave me this one quote that has stuck with me ever since, and that's, "You're defined more by what you say no to than what you say yes to." And that really resonated with me because I found myself saying yes to every opportunity that came my way. So now I flipped the switch and I said no to almost every opportunity that came my way. And that gave me the opportunity to say yes to only the things that I absolutely knew that I really wanted to do and were going to be pushing my vision forward and my goals forward. So if you operate from the lens of saying no first and then trying to argue for yourself to say yes, that could make it a lot easier for you not to say yes to every single opportunity that comes your way. I would also suggest maybe running opportunities by people that are more objective than you. You're feeling emotionally connected to these opportunities. Maybe it's going to come with some good money, and that's really incentivizing. It could be a good opportunity to meet like a person that you've always wanted to meet, or do something that you've always wanted to do, but it might not be the right time to do that. Choose somebody that you love and trust and run those ideas by them and see what they think. They might give you a perspective that can help you see that maybe the opportunity isn't the right for right now, and exactly why saying no to that opportunity is saying yes to some other things that you really want to be doing that are pushing your goals forward. Saying no to people is really uncomfortable. You don't want to let them down, and all of us really do want to be liked by other people, and we don't want to make them feel bad. So what I have to say about how to get more comfortable with saying no is just doing it. So pushing through the discomfort, pushing through the fear, and just doing it. And I promise you, after you do it even just one time, you're going to realize that it's not as big of a deal as you thought it was. And I can tell you a story that can completely back this up, that can completely back the situation up. That is when I had decided that I was going to stop coaching as many athletes. I was coaching a lot of clients at Working Against Gravity, and I decided that I was going to move them to a different coach. And saying no to those clients and coaching them, I thought was going to be the biggest deal in the entire world. I thought they were going to be so upset that they were moving to another coach, that they loved working with me so much that it was going to be the biggest deal and they would all leave. The funny thing is that none of them thought it was a big deal at all. They were all so happy for me, for the growth of the company, and for me having other opportunities to take on different responsibilities. So it really wasn't that big deal. And sometimes the fear of saying no is just this story that we've created in our own heads, and just saying it out loud is going to help you conquer that, and it's going to give you some practice for the future. I like to say that Working Against Gravity is for anyone, not for everyone. So it doesn't really matter whether you're doing intense exercise or you're not exercising at all. If you're a CrossFitter, an Olympian, or just somebody who does yoga, it doesn't really matter. Working Against Gravity can definitely work for you if you're willing to work hard and check in with your coach and make sure that you're being honest and telling them everything that's going on. That's the only prerequisite that we have for any Working Against Gravity client. The funny thing is, when I first started my weight loss journey when I was 16, I was really young at the time, I was almost 200 pounds. I had lost 45 pounds without any exercise at all. So you definitely can get results without doing exercise. Maybe you're injured, or maybe exercise is just not your thing. I would encourage you to try different types of exercise because it is really important for you. But if it's not your thing, Working Against Gravity can still definitely work for you, considering we only focus on nutrition. These have been some of my favorite questions to answer in our Q&A, so I hope you found the information interesting and useful. Let me know in the comments below.